When I was growing up, we had tape recorders, video recorders, cassette tape recorders. You could play and rewind and play and rewind over and over if you wanted to, hitting the button back and forth, back and forth. We also have spiritual tape recorders as well. Children will grow up replaying in their minds the messages that they've received about life, about themselves. And we receive messages from a number of places, obviously. Our family, our friends, schools that we've gone to, people in our workplace, mass media, social media, culture in general. Sometimes, or maybe even often, the detrimental messages seem to be the ones that stick the most. I don't know if you noticed that. When negative messages about ourselves are replayed over and over again in our thoughts, the voices on those imaginary tapes sooner or later become our own voices. And it should be no surprise that we end up by rejecting ourselves. And the accuser or the deceiver, known as the devil, will also use those as spiritual weapons against us too. We need to ask the Lord to help us to throw away those tapes that keep playing over and over in our minds, and help us to replace them with the loving, accepting voice of God. Jesus says in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice." His voice and his message are powerful enough to override and eventually silence those voices of rejection and accusation and shame and discouragement. Jesus says in John 6:37, "All that the Father gives to me will come to me, and I will not reject anyone who comes to me." What are some of the harmful messages we receive as children? Well, if our parents or authority figures are unfair or excessively critical of us, we can think, I'm stupid, I'm worthless, basically. If they're unreasonably or overly protective, the message that they give to us is, well, I don't really measure up. If they're excessively controlling, we can think that we are unacceptable. If they're unduly permissive, we can think that we're not worth very much. And then there are our peers and our brothers and sisters, if we have any. If our peers or siblings are unfairly or excessively critical, we can think that we're defective. If they're discouraging, we can think that we just can't do anything right. If they're too aggressive, we can get the message that we're too weak. If they're excessively competitive, we can think that we're incompetent and just unable to keep up. Society itself has a number of negative messages that it preaches to us. Our excessively competitive culture can make a child feel insecure. The push to materialism gives us the message that we are not really important, that things are what's important. Technology is important, stuff's important, but not really me. If we aren't as gifted in school or sports or music, we can feel insignificant. If we experience discrimination, we can feel rejected. So all of the negative messaging can do a lot of harm. It can do a lot to form and deform our self-understanding. But as we mature spiritually, the Lord begins to help us to distinguish between what's true and what's not true. He does give us the wisdom and the grace and the tools to be able to filter through these things with a filter of faith. What doesn't pass through the faith filter, meaning that what isn't from God, we learn, or we need to learn, to discard those things. We should even ask Our Lady, Blessed Mother, please help me to replace those negative tapes with how you and Jesus think of me instead. We should ask that grace every day. St. Paul tells us in Romans 12:2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and pleasing and perfect." As we allow God to transform our minds, He will transform our hearts and our lives as well. In our next video, we'll talk about some wrong perceptions and wrong conclusions. I'm Father Terrance. Ave Maria. Thank you so much for listening. Please keep me in your prayers. I'll keep you in mine as well. God bless you and take care.